Today is September 21st, 2021, 7 p.m. in the City Village Council meeting. I ask everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Aaron, don't sit down. Oh, I guess you can sit down. So, recognition of guests. Aaron Phillips is our auditor. So, Aaron, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. Aaron Phillips. I'm with the firm Phillips Salming Associates out of Washington, Illinois. This is our first year doing the audit for your village. We did the audit as of April 30th, 2021. And in at your desk there is the audit, which is the big, probably 60-page packet, and then there's an auditor communication letter, which is just 2.5 pages. As we're doing the audit, and all municipalities that have a utility are required to have an audit, and our audit, just to kind of give you what we're doing when we do an audit is Lori does the financials, does the transactions throughout the month. They're reviewed at the board level. Brian reviews things, and at the end of the year, they package up all of the financial information, and we come in and we test it. And so basically, we take what Lori has done and what Brian's reviewed, what's been done for the year, and we're going to test the balances. And so the good thing with the municipal audit is we can get third-party verification on most of the information that is presented to us. So all your cash accounts, we confirm directly with the banks. Your loan, I think you've got a loan with the Illinois EPA. We confirm that balance with the EPA. With your, so being on the modified cash basis, you have debt and you have cash. So we pretty much third-party verify your balance sheet or what you have and what you owe. And then on the revenue side, all the revenues that come from the state, so your MFT allotment, your income taxes, your sales taxes, all of those revenue items, we're verifying with the state. So we're matching those up to make sure that what's in your financials is what the state is showing as being dispersed, as well as the county real estate taxes. The real estate taxes, we're doing the same thing at the county level, and then the one large revenue item that we can't get third-party verification from is the water and sewer billings. And so, I guess we could confirm, balances with customers. I typically in auditing we don't do that because that would be, somebody gets a confirmation of, water usage or, it's really not an effective test. So what we do is we detail test collections and look at in the detail for unusual activity and really test the water sewer billing system, collection system, looking for unusual activity, just because we can't verify from a third party those revenue items. And then on the expense side of things, we're randomly selecting a sample of expenses, and then we're also looking at pretty much all of your large expenses, your capital outlay, pay special attention to TIF expenses. I know this is the first year that you have a TIF fund, but the TIF fund has its own separate financial report that goes to the state. And so it's really important that the TIF funds that are expended are actually, TIF approved, TIF appropriate expenses. So we spend some more time on the TIF side of things, verifying that those are appropriate expenses. And we actually have to put a letter that goes with the report that you're in compliance. So we didn't see anything that was not in compliance with TIF standards.
And that letter goes to?
That letter is in the audit. And
don't you also send something to the TIF attorneys?
Yep. So the TIF attorneys, Jacob and Klein, are going to prepare the TIF report, the annual report, and in that there'll be an attorney letter. In that will be an auditor letter and the financial statements from the that relate to the TIF. So in the financial statements, we did add 3 pages. So page 50, 55, 56, and 57. Report on compliance with the TIF Act, page 55. Page 56 is the balance sheet of the TIF fund, and then the 57 is the revenue and expenses of the TIF. Those 3 items Jacob and Klein will want to have when they prepare the TIF financial report. So we just put them in. We just make it real easy, and put those documents right in the financial statements. So we can just get them right to Jacob and Klein so they can do their thing. And the other fund that is different this year is the business development district, which is another fund funded through additional sales tax. And so your financial statements, if you look at this year compared to last year, you're going to see two new funds because we need to separately track those and account for those items. So there wasn't any revenue in either one of those funds this year, but the startup costs and then there was one redevelopment agreement in the TIF that was paid out this year. So there were expenses in those funds, but there wasn't any revenue. The revenue will come, and basically the general fund paid for those expenses. But in future years, the TIF and the BDD will be able to repay the general fund those costs that they've basically loaned out, used to get things up and going.
And we're reporting out now monthly. General, MFT, TIF, and BDD is all separate entities, so they're seeing monthly reports for every entity. Mm-hmm. That now you represent the new funds in the audits.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing. When you say audited financial statements, what is that? Well, basically, if you just take away, hey, the auditor is coming in, testing transactions, and then verifying specific, important things with third parties. And so the financial statements, there's a clean opinion on these that says, hey, these are in accordance with the modified cash basis of accounting, which is your basis of accounting. And so basically, clean report, which is what you want. Also, when we do the audit, we look at the internal controls, the processes. How do you open the mail? Who opens the mail? How do bills get approved? Do the reports get generated that go to the board for approval? How do actual checks get paid? Who signs the checks? We kind of go through all of that and look at and same thing on the deposits on the water sewer side. And really, we don't have from a control perspective, we don't have any what you'd call a deficiency in your controls. In the prior year, I think before Brian was here, there was the prior auditor reported a lack of segregation of duties, which basically means that Lori was doing so many things and the review really wasn't as good as the auditor thought it should have been. With Brian coming in, they recommended, a detailed review, and then they also recommended that Brian review the bank statements and the bank reconciliations. And so when we did our testing, I think the review was good, with the exception of I didn't see where Brian was reviewing the bank statements and the bank reconciliations. So from our recommendation for this year is that Brian, along with the detailed financial reporting that he's doing and reviewing and the board reviewing, that we also have someone other than Lori looking at those bank statements, reviewing what's actually going out of the bank statements, the canceled checks. There's images of the canceled checks that come with the bank statements, and just review that for appropriateness.
And we've started that. We've done it the last, I guess, almost 2 months, and then I initial and date every page after I review them. So that's happening now.
Yeah. So there's good controls on the way, what gets paid or what gets approved to be paid, but then the follow-up review in the bank statement verifies that, nothing else got went through the bank statement that wasn't approved. That's why it's kind of the catch-all to say, hey, these are all the things that were approved. Now let's have somebody look and see what exactly went through the bank. So just tidying things up, which is great. That I came in, I really that was the one thing that I said, hey, we could clean up and we could tidy up. And looking at what you did on a monthly basis, looking at the financial information that Brian's giving you, looking at what Lori, is preparing, the system is good. It really is. When you get monthly financial statements and monthly reports, you can look at that and say, hey, you know what, you've got a lot of confidence in these reports, because when I did the audit, I didn't have a whole bunch of journal entries. I didn't have a bunch of corrections to the information that Lori's prepared. So it's a pretty good key that, hey, things, from my perspective, are looking good, and you should have pretty good confidence in what you're getting on a monthly basis. There was one thing I did find when we were testing that there was some expenses that were paid out of the TIF that were actually BDD expenses, and so we corrected that during the audit, and I think you've implemented some, because there is such a stringent requirement that TIF only expense, that only TIF expenses run through the TIF fund, that I think you're beefing up that review process. But really, that was the only thing we changed during the audit that was basically a finding. We do depreciation, we do normal, maybe booking, after the loan, the principal payment is recorded as an expense. We put that as a reduction in the loan balance. There's a bunch of things we do as auditors on a reoccurring annual basis that aren't really errors. But there was, I did want to point that out, and I think that you've corrected that issue and are going to be looking for that in the future, make sure that those expenses, and the same thing, and I know, like the MFT expenses, I think, I think you guys are going way above and beyond what most municipalities do on the MFT expenses, which is great. So all those items that have specific requirements, you really need to capture, what's going through those, and you guys are doing a good job with that. So
speaking to if you guys remember, what the issue with the BDD and the TIF funds is, we were originally paying out of general and we didn't have separate accounts for TIF and BDD. And so once we decided to take that step, now Lori had to go back and figure out, of all the expenses we had, which ones went into BDD, which ones went into MFT. Now that we've got those accounts separate, when they come in, they're going to the right place, and so we should not have that issue again.
Yeah. And then the other point that we're changing is the sanitation bank account.
Yep.
There was one account that we're moving funds and doing a lot of work internally that really we can just run the sanitation fund just like we're running the other pooled cash accounts. And so I think we can, by eliminating that sanitation fund, streamline the
We want to be
expenses.
careful how we say it because we're not eliminating the fund, we're eliminating the account. We're moving the fund to underneath general. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, underneath the pool.
We're
the pool account.
eliminating the fund still exists. It's just going to be tucked under general like water and sewer is, rather than have a separate bank account, which then brings it in line with everything else we're doing. But the fund is not going away because I know that's a legal issue. If we're getting rid of a fund, there's something that we have to do different. So.
Right, yeah. The bank account, there's an extra bank account that we're going to eliminate and make those expenses and streamline that expenses, get those in line with the other funds. So as far as the financials, let's go through. I'll just highlight a couple things. On page 3, it's the statement of net position, which is really in like a for-profit enterprise. This would be like your balance sheet or your net worth statement. You've got assets, what you have, what you own, and then liabilities, what you owe, and the net of that is essentially net position or the net worth of the village. And so up top we've got cash total, and this includes water, sewer, all of the governmental funds. Citywide total cash is $1,150,000. Last year, that number was $1,092,000. So you're up about $60,000 entity-wide in cash from last year to this year. And that includes, and that's after you've funded all of the TIF expenses and all of the BDD upfront costs. So there was about $150,000 in this year that you expended, and you still were positive cash, entity-wide. That and really there's a couple things that hit this year with COVID. There was the CARES Act, and you received in your general fund, you received about $50,000. That was a grant that really added to your general fund balance. Those were really a reimbursement for police expenses and some consumables. And then the other big one was the Rebuild Illinois, was about $40,000 that came into the MFT fund to be spent for road improvements, road projects. So there's about $90,000 that came in here that really, that really was on top of what your normal income was. And with COVID, I know last year, because this year really encapsulates, it's from May to April, so it really encapsulates the start of COVID and all the way through. Really, your revenues, if we look at your income tax, your sales tax, all of your revenues really didn't go down as a result. And I know, but your expenses, I know exactly what you did when things happened. You tightened your belt and you're like, hey, we don't, very uncertain times. Well, your revenues ended up not going down, actually went up, and then your expenses were tight this year. So that's why, you spent some money on developing the town and putting investment back into the community, and your cash balance is still, in a good spot. So the other point on this page is liabilities. Loans, current portion of loans payable, $26,000, and then loans greater than 1 year is $284,000 for a total. The only EPA loan is the only long-term debt you have on the books, and there's about $311,000 outstanding on that, and you're paying roughly with principal and interest about $30,000 a year through 2032 to pay that off. So when you look at things, that's a really that's a very strong balance sheet or a very strong net worth for the size of entity that you have. I mean, we look at 1,150,000, and then we look at your expenses for the year, and you're above trend line or above where I guess industry standard says that you should be. So positive. And really I don't have any concerns. Looking at these financial statements, I don't have any concerns where I'm like, hey, you really should be looking at your levy, or hey, you really need to be careful how you spend TIF funds. I mean, I think at this point, I think you guys are doing a wonderful job managing the village affairs. If we go, I'll just go to page 6. Well, actually, kind of talked about that. Go over to page 9, and I'll just show you the general fund. I'll show you the major funds here. The revenues. The general fund, which is your main operating account, the revenues that came in, local taxes, your real estate taxes, governmental, all the state allotments. Property taxes were $129,000 this year. Last year that was $123,000. So real estate taxes were up. All the intergovernmental were $344,000. Last year, that was $330,000. So you can see that pretty much line by line, your revenues were up. Then we get down to grants. And that's where, in the general fund, that's where the Cures Act money came, that $50,000. And then so for total revenues in the general fund, it's $565,000. Last year, total revenues in the general fund were $496,000. So in total, they're up $70,000. 50 of that being that grant. Then right next, same page, next column, motor fuel fund. Motor fuel tax is up top, and then you can see the Rebuild Illinois funds, $40,000 coming in. And then you didn't have any expenditures in the MFT fund in 2021, so your balance in the MFT fund went from $45,000 up to almost $130,000. So you've got quite a bit of money, set aside for road projects. And then that next column is the TIF fund. That's a new column there, and then there's no revenue, but there's expenses of $130,000. 85 of that was the redevelopment agreement, and then legal fees and engineering fees and all the costs to set up the TIF fund is included in that as well. Let's see. And if you flip to page, I'm almost done, I promise. If you flip to page 13.
If you're almost done, that's pretty short.
If you go to page 13, we've got the waterworks and the sewer fund. And the point to make there is charges for services were $444,000. Last year it's $414,000. So probably some stay at home, generating additional revenues there of about $30,000. Overall, you want your water and sewer fund to pay for itself through usage charges, and operating income was a negative $22,000, but there's a non-cash depreciation number in there of about $70,000. So I think from a cash flow standpoint, you are generating more revenue than you're expending in the water sewer fund. Not a lot, but but that is a positive.
We took pricing action in January of this year, which is still a portion of this fiscal year review, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that probably offsets some of it, but I think next year we'll be much better.
We'll have a raise again next year. In January.
Right, and whenever you do anything to the utility system, it's extremely expensive. So you've got to be generating revenues in excess of your operating expenses to cover those. You might be 20 years before you do something, but when you do it, it's very expensive. So you've got to be building and planning in the water sewer fund for those large expenses.
And just a reminder, RCAP is currently working on with our data to help us determine if our rates are currently enough to cover capital expenses moving forward. So we're having a review of that right now.
Yep. And then if we flip all the way back to page 44 or 41, and I misspoke. You did get a little bit of revenue in the BDD fund this year. It had just started. You had generated about $7,000 of sales tax revenue in that new fund, and then there was about $17,000 of set of expenses in that fund. And I would expect. These are the smaller funds way in the back here, and we group those together and show them as one fund. Next year's audit, that BDD fund will stand alone and will be in the front, probably next to the TIF to the TIF, so we'll be able to see that. That'll jump out at you because I'm assuming that number is going to be pretty significant in the future. So
it will be.
a lot of efforts, all the efforts toward it, yes. So that was really the highlight on the audit, and like I said, I appreciate your time today. If you have any questions, anything specific, let me know. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you'd have.
Any questions?
All right. Well, I appreciate working with you guys this year.
Likewise.
Thanks for the business, and I hope to keep working with you. So, any questions you have during the year, Brian's got my contact info. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I can help in any way I can.
I'm sure Lori and Brian will definitely reach out if we have any questions. So.
I'm sure I do.
Yeah. Well, it makes your job easier when you have that, so you can reach out, and talk to them. So.
And in years past, we voted to accept the audit. We don't have to vote to approve it. We just vote to accept.
I don't think so.
I think we have, haven't we, Lauren? Do most municipalities do that?
You accept it. Yeah. Yep.
I put it on here as a vote, so it's not. Okay. Yeah, we don't have to if we don't need to. I was just.
Well, I think you accept it, then you can get it to the county clerk, and we can go forward with the filings. There's
you got the filings that we need to sign?
No, we'll get those to you.
Okay.
Yeah, next time.
So do you think we need to vote to accept the audit?
Typically, you do accept.
We do.
I think you typically.
I thought we did last year.
And do we have a motion to approve the 2020-2021 audit presentation or audit?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Sydak, second by Pearson. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And so what do you need? What do you need specifically? Anything from Lori and I at this point to get it to the clerk, or do you handle that? Or we just need to sign some paperwork?
So we need to get the TIF to Jake and Klein. We need to do the annual financial report, which is an online form. Basically, we take the financial statements and we data fill it into the Illinois Comptroller's website. Okay. We'll do that. We'll print you off a copy of that, and then there's the GATA that we need to do. with the revenues that Lori's working on. And so we will.
So the copy that you print press, is that something we need to sign and record, or?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we'll have to have it signed and sit down. County clerk. Yep.
Correct. And we will get that. We will get that to you.
Okay, and then get it with Laura. All right, I'm just making sure I got all my to-dos.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Have a good evening.
Danny, I see you joined online. Did you have any input, or are you just here to listen to the meeting?
Yeah, just listening.
Okay. Okay. Probably everybody should have a copy of the meeting minutes from our September 7th, 2021 meeting. You haven't looked over them. Take time to look over them.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
A motion by Johnson, second by Weaver. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. I like it when everybody's here. Everybody should also have a copy of the payroll, the treasurer's report. You will see that we do have the big $15,000 payment out there for the IEPA. No, that's, Illinois American Water. I thought it was the IEPA.
IEPA, it's in there. It's not on the warrant list.
Oh, okay.
But it is there for you to sign. That gets done by journal, not on the warrant list. MFTs in there. TIF and BDD, reimbursing the general for the auditor. Invoices. And the audit, so when we get into the audit process, typically when I reconcile all of the months, when everything's reconciled, that month gets closed. When you get to the audit, April stops everything. And even though you guys get May, June, July, August reports, those actually aren't final until that audit comes in and we do the audit journals as of April. So then all of those journals are done in the month of April for the entire fiscal year, if there's any. Once those journals are done, April is then closed. All of those reports every month after that get run again. So if any of you want to read all those, they're there. So now everything is closed up until August.
Lots of fun.
Sleeping material.
Wow.
I'm at the audit report.
No offense.
Is there something that I need to write for whatever he was talking about?
I would just say that he presented the audit and it was voted and accepted.
No, I'm he said something about 15,000 for the
doubtful.
water.
No, it's,
Would that be included in the
Yeah, it's
payroll
already-
warrant?
yeah, it's already.
Okay. You got that confusing me. I'd like to take the time to thank Lori for doing such an awesome job.
I asked him at the end to give us candid feedback. I was going to say this under the administrative report, but since you brought it back, he gave Lori an A+, and the processes and everything A+. So we're very lucky to have somebody who gives that much attention. I think there was total like 9 journal entries at the end of the year, and they're always going to be there because it's correcting depreciation or capital expenses or whatever. The only one that was I guess technically an error was the TIF and BDD one, and that's because that's how we managed it. So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Get the camera over there. Get the camera over there.
Tighter.
Okay, so this would be the approval of the payroll warrant. So I don't need to do anything else. Okay.
Well, we haven't voted on that.
I know, but I just wanted to make sure I got what we're doing.
Yeah, I work with all those guys.
I have a motion by Weaver, second by Gates. Approve the treasury report and pay all outstanding bills. Since this is actually money, I have to do a roll. We should, for money. Yeah. So roll call it. Johnson?
Yes.
Sidak?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Gates?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
Motion carries. Anything else come before treasury report? Brandon, you're up, sir.
Good evening. Tony, I don't have anything for tonight. I just wanted to make myself available for any questions or concerns that the board may have. Brian, I don't think we have anything outstanding right now that I know of.
No, they completed the sidewalk MFT work today. So I think all the work is done. We've got billing and processing of that all to do, but I think all the work is actually done.
Okay.
So Tony, if there's nothing, if there are any questions for me, I ask to be excused. I've got another engagement I need to get pay attention to. But if you need me for things, I can stick around. I just need to call them cancel.
Yeah, anybody have anything else for Brandon?
Nope.
Have a good one, Brandon. Thank you,
Have a
sir.
great night, everybody. Take care. Thank you.
Attorney's report. Michael?
Mr. Mayor, like Brandon, I'm going to keep mine pretty short, change of pace. I don't have much to report on. There's a couple ordinances up in front of you. One's just amending that ground lease with the coffee can just to clarify the payment arrangement that we're going to have with them. And then another one is to approve an expenditure regarding pavement on one of our rights of way over here on North First Street. And so those are both up for the board. There's been a little bit of communications regarding a new potential franchise agreement. So we're trying to make some headway on that one. I don't have too much to report on yet, but we're hoping to get some more information from those guys this week and hopefully enter into a new one.
Okay.
I think that's it for me.
Do you have any questions for Michael? Thank you very much, Michael. Administrator's report.
Hey, so in your packet, there's the normal kind of one-pager that I've got there. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but if you see anything that sparks your interest, if you have questions about, let me know. I think we've covered pretty much everything down to the strategic annexations. If you remember right, we sent a letter out to 2 properties asking whether or not that they would want to annex and that we would be willing to offer some incentives in order to bring them in because that would bring in some additional properties. One family got back to us. They talked about it. I think there were 4 kids in the trust. They voted no because they didn't see really an advantage to them to do that. And we've not heard back from the other properties. So for those 2 things, we're not making as the kind of progress we would like. The American Recoveries Act, they did have a teleconference that Lori and I sat in on, and then another one that I sat in on reporting requirements. And then they had a group where you could send some explanation of the work that you were planning to do and how you were planning to report it and so forth. And I sent our information into them, and all they said is, you're on the right track. and we'll send you more information on reporting later. So I think what we're planning to do is okay.
They don't really know yet. They were looking for ideas, so they're just crowdsourcing.
Yeah, maybe. Somebody just joined. So anyway, I think we're on the right track. We're just going to continue to move forward and go on with that. Our copier lease is up. Lori and I have a meeting tomorrow on that. Mid-Century is looking at a property in town to put their cable cabinet or whatever they call it. And that hasn't been finalized yet, but they did call about zoning and some other things. So I do know that they're hoping to buy a property that would put that in place. And then the last thing is I sent a note because I know that the coffee can's probably getting closer to going live. I don't know if it'll be October, November, but so they're going to start generating revenue and so forth. And so I sent a note to Jacob and Klein, their folks, and said, look, we need to understand as to how, when those dollars start to come in, whose job is it to track the BDD dollars, to track the TIF dollars, to make sure that they're getting what they need and we're getting what we need and so forth. Anyway, after several emails back and forth, we scheduled a teleconference for Thursday. So Lori and I are going to meet with them on Thursday. What I can tell you is, and it's good news. I mean, these are good problems to have, right? That we're getting more revenue, so we have to figure out how to manage it. But it is going to further increase, Lori's workload and mine to some degree in terms of how we manage that process. We will play a role in gathering that data and making sure that it all gets done and goes to the right place so that when the auditors come back next year that we've managed it the way it needs to be managed. So just wanted you to know we were working on that. Any questions on any of that? I also have the financials. So in the packet right after that, you should see the financials through August. Really what I'm trying to do here every month, and I hope you can see it with the end of the year audit, is give you a monthly snapshot of what you're eventually going to see at the end of the year. So slide 2 shows you the August core funds. So this is everything minus MFT, BDD, and TIF. You can see our income was way up. Well, we got our first tranche, they call it, from the American Recoveries Act, which was $81,000. So part of the reason our income was $169,233 and up significantly higher than our budget is we got that first amount of money, half of what we're going to receive, so roughly $81,000. But if you read the center column down, if you take that 81 out, we would still be positive. But we were 93,953 positive for the month. Take out that 81, we're still, 12,000 and some change to the good. So that's great. If you look at the breakdown of each of the funds, then general, we were positive. This is slide 3. Unemployment, we were positive. Water, we were positive, but that's where that $81,000 is. So we were only about $1,000 positive for the month. Sewer, positive. Garbage, basically break even. And sanitation, just a little bit positive. So everything trending well. If you can look at the next slide, then August MFT, we haven't really started to receive the big expenses yet. Just a reminder, when we get to the end of the fiscal year, this statement is going to be negative, if you remember right. So because we only have roughly $40,000 or $50,000 coming in for the year, but to his point, we've got past dollars that we're going to spend. So our expenses, our budget that we created is partly what's coming in plus what we've received in the past together. So our expenses are going to exceed what we see in terms of actual income for this fiscal year. But we'll be spending money that we've already received in the past. You can see the TIF was positive. The BDD continues to trend well. Every month it's probably we're probably averaging 11, maybe 1,000 a month, something like that. So that's going well. Slide 7 then is the core funds year to date. So if you follow the center column down, we're 218,834 to the good. Remember, you back out the 81,000, but still, it's really good. Then if you look at slide 8, it's the year to date numbers. So general, we're good, but some of that's the income tax or the property tax is offsetting. If you look at water, we're 76 to the good. Take out the 81, so we're still roughly $4,500 negative in water. So that would be the only account that we were negative on year to date. But we're making progress there even. Again, you can look at the MFT year to date, we're positive. TIF year to date, we're positive. BDD year to date, we're positive. So everything's trending well. The last slide, we talked about cash as the audit. You can see our 2000 year-end cash was 1.316. Our August was 1.604, so we're up 287,000. Again, you're going to have to back out 81,000 of that for the money that came in from the American Recoveries Act. Liquid cash we're up. Designated earmark cash we're up, but take the 81 out of the 120, so that number is only up about 39,000. We're gonna finish the year, assuming nothing crazy happens. We're gonna finish the year with excess cash, and we're gonna have some decisions to make in terms of: do we want to bolster some of our cash buffers? Do we want to pay down debt? Do we want to
Invest in property?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we're going to have an opportunity, I think, to talk about. So financially, it's boring but good.
So is this was it August year to date 4 months then?
Yeah.
So almost 10,000 a month for BDD then.
Yeah.
It's probably a little higher than we thought when we first went into it.
And then it's grown because it
September's
started
full.
low and then it's grown and now it's plateaued too. So those first months were a little bit lower, but we're probably averaging higher than 10 now, I would guess.
It was 12 this month, September.
Oh, really?
And so then think about, Coffee Can goes live, the new wings
Yeah.
place goes live, if we get a Mexican restaurant down here, if they ever do anything with that, all that stuff's going to build up. If EMS does what they're going to do, then there's going to be TIF money. I mean, we've got the ball rolling. The investments that you all made in the last several years are, now starting to pay off. So.
Any more questions? Okay. We had somebody else join us. Jake Guppy, can you unmute yourself?
I'm here.
Bring for the board.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us down to committee reports. Finance, Mr. Johnson.
I've decided we need to relocate the garbage fund, so that's up for extensive analysis.
Yeah, I probably typed that wrong because it confused Michael. It's really the bank account, not the fund. We're basically moving the money from its own account to the general account. But the fund exists. It's just going to be tracked in a different place. So.
That's what remains in there. I have no idea why. What happens with that? We get the garbage bill. We write a check from general out of that garbage fund of the common, and we put it into that garbage checking account, and then I write the check to PDC from that.
Oh yeah, that seems a little unnecessary.
I called Joanne and said, why did we ever do that? And she said, from what she remembered, it was too complicated to create the do from in the priors. So we'll just do it and be done with it. It's one less checking account.
I make a motion we relocate the garbage fund as laid out by the auditors.
A motion by Johnson. Second by Weaver. Any further discussion? We'll call that. Sidak?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Gates?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And also the Illinois Municipal Treasurers Institute. It's 235 registration. It looks like 240 for the hotel, so it's like 475. So approving that with customary and usual expenses in the report.
Motion.
Huh?
We already approved
$500.
it. Yeah. So yeah, we don't need to vote. So nothing else under finance. Okay.
Is that a trick question?
Yep. Always a trick question. Sewer?
Nothing else this time. We have, everything's working.
Everything's
flowing. Still going downhill. Nothing's changed.
That's correct. Has been plugged right there.
going downhill with that. Yeah, streets and alleys.
I got another quote on the striping
On the green.
from the company that did coffee can. And they were $575.
Cheaper, or that's the whole?
Well, that was right.
Oh wow.
Does that
That's almost
include
$1,000.
paint?
So,
Is it gonna be red paint?
yeah, no.
That's the only catch. It's whatever color they can get on sale.
Neon green.
So, yeah, I mean, I'll make sure that,
They say when they can do it.
well, he said, let him know and he can put it on his schedule.
Are they subject to prevailing wage?
Yeah,
Yeah. So how's that even possible?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think there was only
Unless,
two of
I mean,
them.
of course, he's probably a one-man
Yeah.
Yeah.
team, so, you know.
I mean, he's aware he's got to turn in certified payroll and everything.
Yeah.
He's done municipal work before.
No,
Who is this guy?
it's Stroud striping.
I don't have any of that paperwork.
Yeah, so I'll
I can give
confirm
you
that he's,
He knows what he's getting into.
Lori can send you a packet of the information we need, and if that doesn't scare him off, then his number's probably good. If he sees all that, it scares him off, then maybe he knows it's
Yeah.
not for him.
so like I say, I'll check with him and make sure that he can do it according to our specifications, and if he's still a go, I'll tell him to go ahead and do it. If not, then I'll probably get a hold of the other company and have them do it. But,
And what was the amount you said?
pardon me?
What was the dollar amount again?
$575. That's all I got.
Okay.
I guess I mean, it's 575 or 14. Then probably need to vote on it, I guess.
Well, we gotta make sure he's doing prevailing wage and everything before we can vote on it.
Well, I can check and make sure. I mean,
We could
so that we can get it done.
probably authorize Weaver to go up to 1,400 or whatever. And if the other guy backs out, he can take the other one. Can we authorize him? Can we just make a motion to authorize him to approve up to $1,500 for striping, and then he's free to do whatever he wants to do. He thinks it's best. So, all right. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
We got a motion by Johnson, second by Gates to approve Rod to
Spend up to $1,500 on striping.
spend up to $1,500 on striping.
Who is the other company?
The first one? I don't remember. Is it in the minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
last time.
I did not write it down. I don't have it in there.
I got it on my phone.
Yeah, I think so.
I
So-
just put it all in.
We got a motion by Johnson, second by Gates. Any further discussion? We'll roll call that. Sidak,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Yeah, I'm changing that to say Pearson.
You feel a little left out, don't you, Ryan?
Yeah, I do.
No, we'll get you next.
Never.
No.
You can't.
Sidak took his, so next meeting maybe. We'll make it that far.
Police and planning.
From 8:29 to 9:18, there's 27 incident reports.
27.
Yes.
Are you getting a copy of those two, or just the copies that I'm sending?
Just the copy you sent.
Okay.
That's I'm relying on you doing your job to do my job.
Well, I'll fix that.
That's all I got to report. Is what was reported to me by Tony. It was reported to him by the sheriff's office.
And what were the dates on that? From what date?
8:29 to 9:18. 27 incident reports.
It's a little high.
Yeah, a lot of them were miscellaneous too. They were the one sheet was 6 others uncategorized. So
On that note, I have been seeing Peoria County in the mornings, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, stopping people on 116.
oh, have you really?
Yeah, speeders coming through town.
I asked him called the lieutenant and asked him for Pekin Lane specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people come down Pekin Lane about 55 all the way to the stop sign.
Oh yeah, Murphy Road. They probably do 60, although 70 all the way past the houses. You can hear them just fly by.
Put out some chopsticks.
That's what I want to do. Kill people over a little bit of speeding.
Right out in front of your house.
That would be
Whatever
exactly.
speed you can.
I'll just put the string right through the front window so I can hear them out when they come. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, water. Mr. Pearson.
Yes, sir. 3 total checks for escrow refunds for a total of $275. $15 total shutoffs for a total of $2,563.78. Level pay is 0. 4 foreclosures for a total of $511.93. And approximate gallons sold, 2,529,957. Let me know if you need any of those numbers.
The 2,563.78.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
15 shutoffs. Yeah. You get all those?
Yep.
All right, that is all for me, sir.
That's it?
That's it.
And nothing on from the water people yet?
Nope, still waiting to hear.
Okay. No, Brian alluded to it, but it's until it was in your report too.
Yeah.
Building and ground, Mr. Sidak.
Well, I haven't heard any complaints about the cleanup day, so assuming that was successful. I know we got rid of some stuff. As for the pet shop clinic, I've been talking with people from Big Howell Vet on and off the past week, and they have told me their board meeting's actually tonight as well. So they told me they'd call me back definitively tomorrow with an answer.
Okay.
They said they're shooting for the 16th or 23rd of October. Those are both Saturdays to host the pet shop clinic here, and they're hoping to do it from 10:30 to 12 on either of those days. And the lady told me she'd definitely know by tomorrow and call me back. So I'll be able to report on that next meeting. In addition to that, I have our eternal mayor for life, Fred Winteroth, has called a meeting for Rails to Trails. I plan on attending that on Tuesday of next week. So I'll be able to report on that.
Okay.
As well.
What time is that meeting?
1 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it was 1 o'clock.
Got a lot of people ready for that.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting excited about it.
Sounds like things have moved positively forward, that we might be actually moving into a phase of collecting the funds and putting together the intergovernmental agreement to buy the property. So I think that's
Great.
the next step.
Saying we might have it bought, I think, by the end of the year.
Great.
Yeah, because it's got to be by.
I thought it was April.
Yeah, like next April, I think. It's got to happen, or if it's done, there's no extensions.
Yeah. Well, we did say that on our last extension, but that was pre-COVID, so.
Yeah. I think we got COVID.
Yeah.
Mulligan.
Yeah. Otherwise,
And we'll take it because. Yeah, and just something to bring up to the board. Once that property is purchased, that will open up more annexations too, because we will have people able to join to that property.
I didn't think about that.
I was thinking about it today because that property that we will purchase will take us almost all the way into Bellevue.
But we're not going to own it all under title of the Village of Hannah City, though.
I think each body owns a certain portion of it and is required to do the
It's like right outside of Bellevue to Hannah City, through Hannah City to almost Farmington.
That will be under our name, so they'll divide each one up amongst us.
Well,
we don't own the whole thing under a collection of municipalities. We actually each have title to separate portions.
I don't think that's been decided. I think that if I understand correctly, the possibilities are everybody owns theirs separately.
Yeah.
Or they can, and we manage it through an intergovernmental agreement. Or I know Fred was talking about the possibility of creating a third-party nonprofit organization that all of those were members of, and then that owned it independently. Yeah, I think he told me that that's the way they did parts of the Rock Island Trail.
Yeah.
But his point is still valid. Even if that's true, I would assume that nonprofit would annex,
Right.
which means those properties then that are next to it would be connecting, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you'd annex that whole thing though. I mean, that would be.
Yeah,
I mean, that would run miles. That'd take you all the way to
Yeah.
Farmington, and that would.
Well, you don't have to.
Not be in favor of that.
Mm-mm.
We
I
can
would not annex it. If it was owned by a nonprofit, I would not annex that whole thing.
So that's an important point we probably need to talk about with Fred is if the village owns it, then we don't have to annex the property because it's all village owned and we're already there.
Even if they did, surely they could separate like part of it out. The part that's, even if it's owned by the nonprofit, surely they could make a parcel number that was in our village limits that we could annex.
Right.
I mean, either way, you're going to annex past it if we went south of the tracks because it would be public right of way. So you'd ignore it in purposes of annexation, but to use it to stretch out and grab something.
That might get us the Eden properties. Wouldn't get us this side of the road.
Yeah, if you could stretch on the north side, if somebody on the north side of Eden has done it, then you might have a few to touch right there with that. Yeah, no matter how it's owned, it'd be something worth looking into if they can break up into,
Some parcels.
They will have to anyway. They'll actually have to do that anyway. They'll have to even if it's owned by the nonprofit, though. I guess they won't be paying taxes, so it won't matter probably.
But we don't pay taxes on ours, so.
No, I don't know if the nonprofit would or not. The nonprofit does.
I would think no.
Yeah, they probably won't. So it won't. I was going to say they'd have to put a pin with just the village because the levies would be different inside and outside the village limits. But yeah, but something to look at for sure on there.
That's a good thought. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that after our meeting this afternoon for some reason.
Is that something then that we can levy for tax dollars to
No.
maintain it?
It wouldn't be a taxing body.
No.
The benefit to having it a portion individually owned by us is that we could improve it ourselves within the village limits. Then no matter whatever happened to the rest of it long term, at least we would have ours that we could use for,
In
pros and cons of both.
with the intergovernmental agreement, whatever.
Yeah, but we'd at least have title to part of it ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
My sense is the preference would be that the individual villages own it rather than.
Than a third party that they.
Am I hearing you wrong?
No,
I'm guessing that's the way they're going. I don't know. I don't know if anybody's going to want to long term be taking care of a nonprofit. I'll have to see what they come up with. But I would guess they would just want.
Yeah, because otherwise these entities already exist. If you have an intergovernmental agreement, you don't have to create a separate organization.
Yeah, it seems like it was kind of done the same thing, except it'd be owned by one entity instead of each one owning a portion of it themselves. So then you could have caveats in there. If something went out or something happened, you could buy if it dissolved all at one time, at least you'd own your portion and the opportunity to buy part of the rest. Or put some stopgaps in there. If you did have something go nuclear with it in the future, so at least you would have your portion if you spent money on it.
Right.
Yeah,
and we have, I think, one of the bigger portions.
We do.
Yeah, because we stretch a long ways east and west. Even if we just got what we had already, that would be quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that'll be,
Okay, down to other businesses. Other businesses. Losing my mind today.
Until there's a motion in a second.
Okay.
Discussion.
All right. So Michael's going to talk us through the details in the discussion phase if we want to have a motion and a second on the amending of the lease for the coffee can.
Yeah, okay. So before you have an ordinance approving an amendment to the ground lease entered into by the Village of Hannah City and the Coffee Can LLC.
Yeah, make a motion. We amend the ground lease between the Village of Hannah City and the Coffee Can LLC.
Oh, 4.
The ordinance number will be 21-09-04. A motion by Johnson.
Second.
Second by Weaver. Any further discussion?
I'll chime in on what this is all about. So there was a little bit of misinterpretation on my end at the last time we adopted this lease in terms of what the village's obligation is going to be regarding payment for that pavement that's going to go up on the right of way next to the coffee can. So I had interpreted it wrong. It didn't get caught when we adopted this thing that essentially we put a cap on how much we were going to contribute because I thought the sharing arrangement was 50-50 for the remaining pavement costs, and I thought the remaining pavement cost was I think $2,600. So it was capped in the lease at $1,300. The village's obligation. Turns out the remaining pavement is going to cost a little bit more than that. So I didn't feel we should be bound by that cap, and I thought we would be if we're under this lease agreement. And to keep everyone happy, we just made it a little easier to follow in terms of the wording of this section, which is just that village is going to put up the cost of half that pavement, half that pavement, and then also to clarify that the village, this came up after we had entered into this lease anyway. The village would be taking on that cost up front, and the coffee can would be reimbursing the village the coffee can's half of that pavement cost when the coffee can, when their lease takes effect in January, I think January 15th. So the point of this amendment was just to remove that cap that we had accidentally put on ourselves, and to clarify that we'll pay it up front. You guys reimburse the village when it comes time for your lease taking effect. And then also just to clarify that the pavement that's already installed at the coffee can, that's not touching our right of way, the village isn't contributing anything to that. We're only paying what is being paved for the right of way itself, not the lot that the coffee can sits on. So that was the point of this. And I know we had authorized Brian to enter into these leases and to negotiate terms, but I felt the safe option here would be to follow suit from what we did last time, which is put it up for the board for a vote for the lease and then the amendment as well.
And I read right over it last time, so it's my fault too. I read it and didn't even catch the cap, so it's on me too. So the amendment basically just takes the cap out, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And clarifies that village isn't paying for their pavement that's already there on their lot outside the right of way.
So they're responsible for all the maintenance. They got to keep up the fence, the pavement stripes, all that stuff.
That's
So
an lease too, yeah.
Yep.
Enforcing involved with towaway and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Signage too. I imagine they're probably gonna put a sign up there.
Yeah. And the signage is allowed under the lease. And, there could be some benefits to having this pavement down the road. If Coffee Can lease expires, Coffee Can doesn't want to renew their lease, well, Village owns a paved right of way that they can use for other parking facilities.
We only paid half for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we still got the asset. No matter what happens at the end of the day, we still got improvements done.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? So, roll call it.
Well, do you want?
Pearson?
We skipped over
No,
Pearson, but
Joe
should we?
Gates, she corrected it. So Gates.
Okay. Gates,
Okay.
Yes.
Weaver. Yes. Johnson.
Yes.
Sidak.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes, sir.
Motion carries.
Okay, so the next ordinance then is an authorization that Michael talked about to spend, and I changed the number from what's in the quote was for 14.5. I just bumped it up in the ordinance that you sent me to 15,000. So we had a little buffer in there since the quote was 14.5. I wanted to make sure we had a little breathing room. That's to do the remaining part of the pavement, and then just like he did with the others, do the blacktop to out into the road to blend it in. But basically, the way it's going to work is the people that do the work are going to send the invoice to the coffee can. The coffee can's going to give it to us. We're going to pay whatever. Let's say it's 14.5. The part that's already done, the little strip that's already done, was 2,600. That's where that number came from. So we owe 1,300 of that. That makes sense. And so we're going to pay the 15,000, and then January 15th, when their lease goes into play, they're going to refund us for half of the total amount and pay us the $1,000 for the lease for the year, for the calendar year. Does that make sense or no? So basically, it's 15,000 plus 2,600 divided by 2 is what we'll pay. Plus, they'll give us $1,000 for the lease.
I'll make a motion. We approve the ordinance authorizing the expenditure of $15,000 for pavement installation on a portion of right of way on North First Street.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Pearson. Any further discussion?
What's the ordinance?
2109.
Yeah.
5.
Yep. Ordinance number 21-09-05.
Is this considered a sidewalk?
No.
Parking lot.
Parking.
One question. Did we have a vote yet? Did you vote?
No, we haven't.
One question. I would recommend that we use BDD funds for this rather than take it out of our normal operating budget. It is a capital improvement. We've got the money there. but I don't know the mechanics of making that happen.
Are they limited where we can use them at?
Well, they're within the district.
That is within the district?
Yeah.
Does the district extend south of the commercial properties though?
I believe so, but I'll double check.
Yeah,
with
because
the-
this is gonna be adjacent to residential stuff there, that's parking, so some of it will be.
I guess my question is do we need to vote on where we get the money from? And if we don't, are you okay with me spending the BDD money if the TIF or the BDD and the TIF attorneys say it's okay?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
I mean,
probably
it's basically on 1 month of
Yeah, exactly.
BDD money, so and that's what it's there for.
Yeah, as long as it's in the district. I imagine stuff in the right of way just has to be right of way that's adjacent to a parcel that's in the BDD.
I'd have to check.
Yeah.
I'll check with
Yeah.
Jason and Clyde.
Because obviously the 2600 is adjacent to a commercial property, but then as we go south, we're adjacent to residential that I doubt's in the BDD. So I don't, you know what I mean? Because the parking extends south of Coffee Can and adjacent to stuff that's probably not in the BDD.
Right behind the residentials, I think.
It'd be right east of the residential stuff. It'd be behind Coffee Can. All the parking's east of Coffee Can. There's stuff that's immediately east of it they've already poured that's the 2600. But then the rest of this is going south of the border along that residential behind that fence. So.
But that parcel is directly adjacent to, because they've already poured on some of that parcel.
Yes, but the new stuff will be immediately adjacent to residential.
Some of the right of way is certainly connected to commercial, but some of it's connected to the back of those residential properties. I'll just check with Jason and Klein, and if they say it's okay, then that's what I'll do.
Yeah, show them that situation, see what they. Yeah.
Well, once we get the survey.
Tell them it's in a lease. Maybe it'll pull it. Since it's a direct benefit of it. Yeah, I don't know. That's something for them. That's pretty deep in the weeds. So,
but just for clarity, we're not going to put it in the vote, but. If I can do it, spend BDD money. If I can't, then spend. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say spend the BDD.
A motion by Johnson, second by Pearson. Any further discussion? Roll call it. Weaver?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Sidak?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Gates?
Yes.
Carried. And something caught my attention today. Me and Brian were having our meeting that we have on Tuesdays. Something that probably hasn't been brought to the boards is, everybody's a resident. What's something you guys would like to see in town? I know we've asked this of our residents, but I don't think we've really asked it of our board. What's something that, we could have in town or possibly do in the future that would benefit the community?
I would like to see a farmer's market, like a real one, like you can get vendors.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And that's just.
And it could be done in the late afternoons or on Saturdays, whichever.
Oh yeah, a lot of farmers markets are done on Saturdays and Sundays.
I'm just saying it's not just a Saturday thing, but.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
there's people selling stuff in town, just spotty and spread out.
Yeah, I don't even know.
There's a couple of kids. There's one kid that comes into town with a stand and sets up, and one just over by FS on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the farms. There are two people. They own the house two doors down from me.
Taylor.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't know. Maybe that's something the park district wants to.
Yeah, that's something we could see. Park district would be interested in that. But they have that big open field out there.
That sounds like something they would organize.
I mean, if you do it once a month or once every couple, that way you know that it's coming and it's not just one thing that everybody's going after.
Have to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's no time limit on it or anything like that. And just if you think of something, something we'd like to have, maybe new community center, maybe you'd like to see?
That's kind of what I was leaning towards, because, like, you know, if I want to take the kids somewhere, it's Alpha Park or drive somewhere into town. You know, if there was a more open and inviting area for kids to come play, then you've got all these ice cream places around here.
I think we don't have ice cream anymore, right?
We'll have ice cream and wings.
Oh, they're gonna still
Yeah,
do
they'll leave
ice
Ice
cream.
cream and coffee can too.
Once they get up and running, we'll have
Okay.
You'll be swimming in ice cream.
what else do you want?
I know.
I've kind of been just making the rounds. I've spent time with pastors. I've spent time with business people, just kind of scheduled meetings and just asking that question. And I did get the kind of some civic stuff, you know, if we could redo the community center, have a really nice community center with a park. I got old style street lamps, either down Main and part of 116.
Sort of like they did in Farmington, you know, they put in those really nice lighting.
Draw people in. No, it doesn't.
The way the thought came up was where's going to be the entry point from rails to trails into the town, and if it's Main Street, and I don't know whether it is or it isn't, but if that's going to be a main place for it to come in, it would be nice to do things on Main Street that kind of was welcoming, and that's how that conversation came.
Gives it more of an old town charm.
So,
speaking of the Park District, I spoke with a member of the Park District Board, and she just wanted me to make everybody aware, spread the word that they're having a trunk or treat the weekend before Halloween, and they're looking for volunteers to have a trunk. So I'm going to do it. If anybody else wants to, or if you know anybody that wants to, they're going to be putting something on their website that people can submit to. And posting on their Facebook page and Hannah City Happening. So you'll see it here in the next few days probably, but they're going to have it over in their area over there. And I think right now they've got 6 or 7 cars, and it'll just be a place you can take your kids and go around, and they'll have some activities and stuff like that. So.
And what was that date again?
It's the weekend before. Let me see if she told me that.
Weekend before.
Oh, it's going to be on 10/23 at 4 p.m. Registration will be open next week for volunteers to have a trunk. There'll be prizes for best trunk and best costumes. And they'll have the contact information up soon. So, and like if you decide to do a trunk, then you come up with a theme for it and that kind of stuff. So, just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, like my niece, they did this in Florida, and she had who's the cookie monster? Cookie Monster. And that's what her trunk looked like. It was so cool. And then her kids were dressed up as Sesame Street.
Cookies?
No. Characters. So it's cool. It's a cool thing to do.
Yeah, and as a reminder, we'll also need to think about posting our Halloween hours next month. I don't know where we're going to post them.
We do it on.
Well, I know,
web.
besides on the web and everything, we used to post them in the paper too.
They closed.
I know. That's what I said. We used to.
Wow, thank you. That's great.
Wow.
That's good.
That's what I was.
That's what I'm here for. Knowledge guy.
You know, and that's something else. If we could, I don't know if anybody likes the weekly post. If we could,
Lamp publications.
yeah, harp
Town
on
crier.
them.
Bring back the town crier.
I mean, it'd be nice
I would
to
approve
have
an expenditure to get you the town crier costume.
And you'd wear it.
No, Brian.
We'll get it for.
I mean, I don't know if you
Yeah,
guys
get it,
Stilts and light the street lamps and be the town crier all at the same time.
Put
but
that on the
that would
agenda
be
next meeting.
someplace we could start posting stuff.
Yeah, or you could even, I don't know, if you could find a newspaper company that would.
Don't you have to subscribe to that?
It's free for Farmington, Elmwood, and all those out there. That's why I said I don't know how we could talk him into.
What's the name of it?
It's called the Weekly Post.
It's the
Didn't Fred
lamp.
try to?
We just did the. You signed a bill to them for the football.
Right.
Yeah,
Fred try to get them to come here, come to a meeting, and
Yeah.
they basically had no interest?
they wouldn't, but they somehow he got. I think Phyllis has a subscription because
Yeah,
They
you can
used to
pay for a
deliver it.
subscription.
well they used to deliver it to our box here for Fred.
Yeah, they
I
do
see how
have
he rates. I don't get
subscription.
that.
Well, you just started.
I don't
Come
know
on.
if
He was paying for it.
maybe
Have
Phyllis
delivered
just gave it to him. I don't know.
I get it in my mailbox.
Well, only Fred
Really?
and
Yeah.
Rod.
Is it addressed?
Huh?
Is it addressed to you?
I don't know. I never looked at that.
Yeah, they slap a label
I get it in
over.
my mailbox.
I do not get it.
No, we don't get it over. I don't know that Trevoli gets it either. I think it just starts in Farmington, but
Just bring a stack of Farmingtons over here for us.
since we're in now, I was saying that way we could start posting stuff in paper again. But,
Yeah.
but we're part of the Farmington School District, and a lot of information is put in there about Farmington. So it does kind of.
But we don't see it.
I know, because we don't get that paper. That's why I said I don't know what it would take if somebody.
What's it called? I'll look into it.
It's called the Weekly Post.
I've got his email. It's on the bill.
Anything else need to come before the board? Our next meeting is October 5th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining. You adjourned.
Maybe Pam put